Hi, I'm Claudia de Brito, editor of Hotelier Middle East. Today I'm joined by Florian Sengstschmid, who is the CEO of the Tourism Board of Azerbaijan. Thank you very, very much for joining us today, Florian.
Hi, Claudia. Good meeting you.
Hi. So obviously we've all been in lockdown for about a month now, and the effects of COVID-19 are truly being felt throughout not just our industry, but throughout world economies. Could you please talk to me about how COVID-19 has impacted international tourism and travel?
I think what is especially hard for us in tourism is to obey a physical and social distance. Being 2 meters apart or 1 meter apart is hard for us when we normally gather in touristic places, touristic sites, at trade shows, industry partners. Especially now, we all would get together in Dubai at ATM. So this, I think, is the most difficult thing when we speak about tourism and hospitality. And I think this is also the challenge on how we overcome this, at least in the near future, at least until there is a vaccine, and how this social physical distancing will be part of our daily life. Tourism and hospitality definitely one of the sectors hit the hardest by this crisis. All around the world, countries are suffering. Azerbaijan had a great January, February this year. We were like on the rise. 2019 was a fantastic year. This year, like the first 2 months, plus 16% overall growth. And then in March, basically started with China minus 65%. And from April onwards, we can imagine also that all the other markets are basically down to zero. Generally, tourism is on a complete reset. The industry and has been put in a reset position. In most countries it came to a complete standstill. Everyone is trying to dream now, travel later, stay home, and experience later. Also in Azerbaijan, we are like take another look and experience Azerbaijan later. So for all what we can do now is basically keep up the conversation, keep connecting with our partners in this challenging time within the country, support the partners, and obviously also abroad, and see and develop scenarios, because the only possibility in this daily changing environment, strategic environment, is to work on scenarios, to see and to have a strategic framework when you can see like and implement really a step-by-step phased approach.
Right. So for now, you're preparing. You're in preparation, and you're making sure that the systems are in place for when recovery happens. Hopefully, are there any sectors that are doing well during this time?
I mean, every crisis brings out sectors and niches benefiting. I think obviously at the long term there is industries, pharmaceuticals, but in generally I think value chains have to be rethought of where do we in-house, where do we outsource, what do we supply from where. I think this is important too for on the government, on the state level, to really reflect on what is important to have within the country in order to not be so dependent on the international supply and value chains. Most important, I think, for now is really to support the sector, the domestic, the local sector. That's what we're doing here. Government has released a support scheme of half a billion US dollars to to the entire economy. So basically, tourism is one of the beneficiaries in different sectors, like entrepreneurial level, individual level. And although it is highly recommended and supported that no one is losing its job, even unemployment rates, basic unemployment payments are fully covered. So there is a lot of rolled out in that direction. For now, we have set up a four phases plan for recovery. In this phase one, we are basically communicating with the partners, keeping up the experiences on a virtual level, and preparing actively for phase two. I think on an international level, we see already the tendency that the first basically real phase on recovery in tourism will be domestic tourism. So we are currently launching not only a big campaign for domestic tourism, but also preparing basically a new type of standards, a new type of approach in order to restore confidence of people traveling. So this, especially when it comes to hygiene and housekeeping and standards related to post-COVID situation. So together with public authorities here and with international partners, we're launching this as soon as the lockdown is over, and as soon as we see that the government is reopening also hospitality and accommodation businesses. So this would be phase two. Phase three, what we can perceive for now is like regional travel. This means for us mainly Georgia and Russia as neighboring countries. We see already that Spain is opening with France and Portugal most likely this summer. Austria announced that they are working on a joint agreement on open borders between Germany and Austria only for this summer. So I think this will be very regional, very still local. I think it's much too early to think of big international travel. Airlines will have to wait until governments are very clear and specific on travel restrictions, on immigration policies. So this will only happen, I think, towards Q4, when we see international travel picking up, and in that sense, again, I think more regional, more business travel, which is much needed, and less on the leisure side. I think the last to come will be business events, MICE industry, on an international level. And phase four is for us again when we are in the new normal, we call it. And the new normal is hopefully that we all can experience the beauties of this wonderful planet life again, and can have a lot of chances to discover all these beautiful places, and in that sense also Azerbaijan here in the South Caucasus.
Absolutely. So in terms of recovery or prediction for things to go back to the new normal, as you mentioned, are you thinking Q4 this year, maybe Q1 2021? What are your rough predictions?
I think let's call it a new normal. A new normal when we are all still impacted by COVID-19 will be 2021. I think a return to the old new normal will be only when a vaccine is available, and when the world basically is safe. Not only a few countries or a few people who can afford it, but like this is rolled out, and if this is hopefully in 21, but also 2022. Until then, we will have to live with the situation. I'm certain that mankind will find a way to overcome and live with it. We see already that in countries where nose-mouth masks were not part of everyday life, have been integrated in a very creative way, even in everyday's life. Looking at Central Europe, for example. So I see that we will have to obey some rules. There will be some new settings in terms of what does it mean in restaurants, what does it mean, like, will there be a buffet breakfast or not? I don't think so, but there might be other ways, and I'm sure the sector will come up with creative solutions. I'm not sure if the latest invention of plexiglass cubicles on the beach, on the seaside, is the best way to spend a day at the beach. But there might be hopefully other ways to do that. So I believe in the creative minds around the globe that not only will have soon a medication. I hope this will be much earlier than a vaccine. But also creative solutions to overcome and to enable tourism exchange in this transition period. Let's call it this new normal. But I think for a destination, for example, like Azerbaijan, where the tourism general impact to GDP is around 2.5% in last year, and is a niche tourism, is built on unspoiled nature, on basically remote, beautiful settings in a relatively small country with where tourism is also relatively new. I think it might not be as challenging to overcome this period than destinations who primarily live from tourism, and where this comes up to 80-90% of the GDP. I think this will be. But I'm sure also that creative solutions will be implemented in these destinations.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what this industry is really great at are coming up with creative solutions, and we have some really wonderful creative people who work in it. So I think you have, and as do I, have every faith that we will come up with those solutions. I just finally wanted to you touched on housekeeping briefly, and new standards going forward. Do you think there will be some lasting positive changes to come out of this situation?
I believe in the good of every crisis, that there is lasting changes. I think in past years we have developed or we have come up with vocabularies like over-tourism and others, irresponsible tourism, which hopefully will be integrated into this new normal, and on the positive end. So I think, and I believe that really we'll be able to manage resources more carefully. We'll be able to reinforce the human connections between travelers and locals. I think to bring out these local cultures, local heroes, and in a more personal connection. And types of travel will most likely change, and this comes to the means of transport, whether this is cruise tourism or huge charter flights to this. I think this will change, at least for a time. I'm also realistic enough that after some time we'll have forgotten, and we'll be back to what we know, and maybe even new and less sustainable inventions. But I think for some time and for some years to come will be new values.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that, and I hope it's really heartening to hear that, and I hope that we do think about that. I hope it does make us think twice about the quality of our travel, maybe not the quantity, and maybe staying longer in certain places and not hopping as much from one destination to another. I think obviously we have to wait and see, but I think that's a nice, hopeful outlook to think of being more mindful going forward when we come out of this.
Thank you.
Yeah, Florian, I want to thank you very, very much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you, and wishing you all the best for the years to come.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Hope we catch up soon again in person. and would be happy to see you in Azerbaijan and show you around here.
It would be my pleasure. Thank you very much, Florian. Thank you.
Thank you. All the best. Thank you very much.